For the 11th time in the last 12 seasons, the Los Angeles Dodgers are NL West champions. How did they get there? How did this uninspired baseball team overcome all the adversity to win the NL West? We'll talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network, Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can make that easy on yourself by subscribing and being notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live, like we are here on Thursday night. And if this is your first time listening watching, you picked a great episode to start because the Dodgers won the NL West. I'm Ben Samperio. That's Jeff Snyder. We've been doing this podcast here for 6 seasons. 5 of those seasons have ended with NL West division titles. We've been doing a podcast longer than that. We've been covering the Dodgers for the last 10 years in a few different ways. And, we've watched a lot more Dodger games than that in both of our respective lifetimes. So we're here to talk about the Dodgers winning the NL West, a 7-2 victory over the Padres. It was a close one until it wasn't close anymore. And the Dodgers, for all the much heralded bullpen talk for the Padres, the Dodgers actually had the way better bullpen this series. But let's start with, I don't know, Jeff, what do you want to start with? There's a lot of ways to go about this, but it feels good. I didn't realize they hadn't clinched the division at home in this stretch run with fans, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah, since 2018, the game 163. I think the last time they did it during the 162 was the Charlie Culberson game, I think. I can't remember for sure actually where they clinched it in 2017, but yeah, it's been a long time since they've done it at home. It was awesome. It was fitting that it was once again Shohei Ohtani for the third time in the last 2 days, driving in the go-ahead run, putting the Dodgers ahead for good. And then Mookie coming through after that. Both of those guys had 3 hits each. Shohei got to 400 total bases. Will Smith had the huge home run. That was the thing. Like, obviously, Smith's home run is maybe the big blow that deserves a lot to talk about because Joe Musgrove was cruising. And in about the third inning, I was kind of muttering to myself, as I do sometimes when I watch baseball, about how they needed to get Musgrove's pitch count up. But then I actually said out loud, or maybe don't, because if his pitch count's low, maybe they'll leave him in too long because it's not just pitch count. There is wisdom in not letting a guy face the third time through the batting order. The fact is most pitchers are worse that time through. And whether it's fatigue, whether it's familiarity, whatever it is, I was kind of happy that they sent him back out there for the 7th inning, happy that his pitch count was under control because I was like, well, maybe now. And somebody texted me and said, would you have let Musgrove start the 7th inning? And I think I would have, but I think I absolutely would have had somebody getting ready and pulled him when he walked Muncy. Because at that point, you're like, when it's only a 2-0 game, you don't have time to figure out, was this a blip or has he lost it? Because boom, they didn't pull him out. And next thing you know, it's a tie game. And it was too late for them to pull him out, which, Smith got a pitch to hit and he hit it. And the key to that, just like, it was fitting for a game that Walker Buehler started, because the big issue with Buehler most of this year has been hitters getting into hitters counts. And when you let a hitter get into a hitter's count, you have to make a hitter's pitch. And that's how you get into trouble. And that's what happened with Musgrove. He walked Muncy, then he went 3-1 on Smith. And that's what Smith said. He's like, I was in a good count and I got a pitch to drive and luckily I didn't miss it. And, it was, and that kind of set things off. 5 runs in that inning, going from down 2-0 to up 5-2, and just immediately, to the extent that momentum matters in baseball, that was shifted. The crowd changed. Everything about that game changed in just a few minutes because of Will Smith. I mean, huge catcher's interference with Eddie Pages up, just everything with the Dodgers way that inning. And it was pretty darn exciting.
I think it was great that, obviously Ohtani played a big part in this. Mookie had a big hit to push that lead up. Pages got the big homer to push that lead up even more. But, Will Smith is a guy that we just don't get around to talking to too much, even though he's had different struggles. We've had a couple episodes where we've had segments on him struggling, but it's one of those where he's kind of flown under the radar just because, either Ohtani's doing really good, someone's doing really bad, the pitching's whatever the case is. And, maybe Will Smith was a little bit forgotten, and he's been clutch before. Like, he's come through in big spots in the postseason, regular season at different times. And yeah, the Dodgers were, a little dead in the water at that point in the sense of getting shut down by Musgrove. Buehler pitched his tail off and, looked like the Dodgers might be hard luck losers. And then it all shifted right there. Like, the walk to Muncie was huge because, Musgrove hadn't really been getting behind in counts and hadn't really driven his pitch count up that high. So it was one of those where as soon as he hit that, you're like, okay, we're good now. Like, our bullpen versus their bullpen. And, their bullpen has the guys they traded for and different names, and it would be a close battle. But it was just one of those, the mental thing. And maybe it's more about us than them. They maybe don't think about it that way. But like 2-0 doesn't seem like a lot. But when you're struggling and scuffling and you had kind of a weird year offensively, you're like, man, 2-0. Like, but then, you get the walk, you get the homer, you tie it up, and you feel, obviously it's a brand new ball game based on the score, but it just felt like, okay, the Dodgers are going to win this now.
Well, when that's the thing about baseball is when you're down by only 2 runs, it can change in a matter of 2 batters. It's why in last night's game, when Kopech was pitching, even though Kopech was dominating and everything, it's a 1-run game and anything can happen in that 1-run game. That's the scary part. And, in today's game, it worked in the Dodgers' favor. It's only 2 runs. And so all you need is a bloop and a blast, or a walk and a blast in this case, and you're right back in the game. It was fun that we got to experience Will Smith's first career bat flip. I don't know if it's actually his first bat flip. The first one I remember, and the emotion he showed going around first base, and they were saying, I don't remember if it was on the broadcast or on the postgame show, but talking about how maybe Ohtani's showing a little bit of spirit has kind of awakened something in some of the players. And everydayers know, I believe that excitement and chemistry and all those things are a result of winning, not a cause of winning, but it's fun to see. And, having that celebration together, you can tell these guys value celebrating together. Clayton Kershaw was talking about it in the locker room afterwards during the celebration, that there's just something special about being with your buddies and celebrating something together. And I think this team really wants to celebrate a lot more things together. I hope that they can do the things on the baseball field that lead to those celebrations. It was pretty awesome. I saw somebody asking in the chat about Freddie Freeman's injury. We will dig into that in the next segment. We'll talk about that. Yeah, this was all in all, Ohtani, Smith, Andy Pages getting the 2-run homer later in the game to kind of put things away. I was telling my wife during Pages' previous at bat, the one that ended in the catcher's interference, that I get excited when Andy Pages comes up, even though he's not super good, because he is a guy who can hit a home run at any given moment. And, it won't always be on purpose. It's sometimes just because he got a pitch to hit, but he's basically, I've talked a lot about how Ohtani, you have to watch every at bat because he could do something special at any given moment. Pages is kind of the same thing, just not as good, but the same potential for explosiveness. And that's what we got there. Just, hey, he got a pitch and he destroyed it. And so that's the kind of thing that you could picture that happening in the postseason. Pages, Dave Roberts said, Pages is going to be on the postseason roster, which you and I had already determined a week ago. But we could absolutely see an Andy Pages home run or 2 in the postseason, and they could come in big moments because he's not afraid of the big moments. Sometimes he's a little too unafraid and swings at bad pitches, but he is absolutely the kind of hitter you could totally picture getting a big hit in October.
Yeah, he's a little bit of an all or nothing guy, and when you get the all, it's a beautiful thing. When you get to nothing, not so much. But yeah, it's one of those. That's why, a little bit of why we advocated for him being on the roster, because of that moment coming, being in there, getting the big home run to extend that lead, to make everyone breathe a little bit. Michael Kopech can just focus on throwing strikes and, not having to worry too much about, getting a save. And it was, collected. I think for the team effort they've had this year, and even in years past, but this year a lot, like a collective team effort. There was multiple big hits by multiple big guys. Your top guys, Mookie and Ohtani, had big hits that carried you. Your next tier of guys, Will Smith came through, and then your other tier of guys, Andy Paz comes through. Like it was a different part of it. But I think what we're going to talk about next is Walker Buehler, because it wasn't the prettiest start, but it got the job done and gave the Dodgers exactly what they needed. So we'll talk about Walker Buehler. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Thank you for making I'm caught up on the brain right now. I know West.
Were you in the champagne party, Vince?
It feels like it right now.
Popping the bubbly tonight.
A little bit different. Thank you for making us your first listen or your last listen if you're here on Thursday night live on YouTube. We appreciate it. Remember, you can check out Locked On MLB podcast with our pal Sully. I'm sure he's talking about the Dodgers NL West title and other things on his podcast. So check that out. Brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, which also brings you the Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles 24/7 streaming channels that you can find on YouTube, bringing the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can also find the Locked On Dodgers postcast available live after most Dodger games on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel and in our audio feed. All right, Jeff, it feels maybe a little disingenuous that we went the first segment without mentioning Walker Buehler, really, but Walker Buehler deserves it because we'd had no idea what to expect from Walker Buehler, and even what we got from Walker Buehler is not necessarily maybe how some would have expected it. If he was going to go out there and dominate, you thought it might be with the strikeout. It might be, a vintage Walker Buehler performance. It wasn't quite that, but it was, I wouldn't want to say just as good, but it was as good as they could have asked for.
For sure. He gave up 1 run in 5 innings. The Padres don't strike out much at all, and so it wasn't realistic to expect a big strikeout game. But what we saw from, I think it was Bobby Miller earlier this year, when he went against the Padres, is without getting the strikeouts, he wasn't able to have any success. And Buehler at least got mostly weak contact. There was a couple hard hit balls. Machado hit the ball pretty squarely a few times. But for the most part, Buehler got weak contact, got through. He was probably a little bit lucky to only give up 1 run in that 5th inning. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out, got through that. Or I guess 2nd and 3rd, 1 out because they bunted over. Not lucky necessarily, but that inning definitely could have been worse, which is why I didn't mind Dave Roberts' decision to pull him after that inning, knowing that it was Machado and Jackson Merrill coming up in the next inning, who we knew had already hit. And yeah, it looked bad when Evan Phillips immediately gave up hits to those guys too, and gave up a run. But all in all, Jerry Harrison was saying on the postgame show, and I think I agreed with him, that he thinks Dave Roberts' mindset was 5 innings, 1 run, when Buehler's pitching on 4 days rest for the first time in 2 years, which is regular rest, but for these Dodgers, it's short rest, knowing, okay, he's confident right now. He had a good start against the Padres. Let's send him into the postseason with that confidence. Even though knowing they have a bullpen game coming up tomorrow, I think it was, I don't believe in right and wrong manager calls, but I think it was not the wrong call. Definitely I like the call, and to pull him out there. And it ended up working out because the bullpen did a really good job. Phillips gave up the 1 run. Nobody else gave up anything. And the offense came through. It gave the offense time to come back. And yeah, I mean, the Padres are a very likely possibility for the Dodgers' first playoff opponent. And so Buehler, his next start might be against them too in game 3 or 4 of the NLDS. And if so, I think the Dodgers have to feel as good as they can in that situation going in, that Buehler can keep them in the game. It's going to be up to the offense. I don't think Buehler is against the Padres ever going to throw 7 scoreless innings with 9 strikeouts. But if he can give them 5 innings, 1 run, 6 innings, 3 runs, something like that, then it's on the offense to show up and get the job done. And that's all you can ask for from your 3rd or 4th starter who's had as bad a year as Buehler has had.
Yeah, I think with a bad umpire, Walker Buehler might have had 4 or 5 strikeouts. He was really close on a lot of pitches. Wasn't getting the Padres to bite so much, but the Padres, that's the kind of offensive team they are. But I think the weak contact is the biggest part. Like even the first few, he gave up a lot of hits, but a lot of them were seeing nice singles or finding holes. I think maybe the Dodgers have to rethink where they play Machado next series because he likes that 5-6 hole against certain guys. But regardless of all that, like it wasn't quite big game Buehler like we've seen in the past, but based on what we've seen from Buehler this year, I think it was a little bit of big game Buehler, and you'll absolutely take 5 innings, 1 run any day of the week when it comes to postseason play or play that feels like postseason play. So it works out. I think the Dodgers, it's one of those things where this game, you win this game, you don't have to worry about the weekend. Like there's a bullpen game on Friday. Like, okay, who cares? Like everybody, bank aspirations, you might have to throw 65 pitches or more. Like there's different ways to go about it. But I think the Dodgers, this one felt like, okay, win this game. You don't have to worry about anything. You can, going to Colorado is always a little bit of a weird thing. I don't think they're going to fully not fly out there and forfeit all 3 games like we would have liked to see. But, it still works out that they don't have to worry about too much. And yeah, they get to celebrate at home. They get the champagne celebration. You get to see guys. I think Ohtani, I don't know if they did champagne celebrations in the World Baseball Classic, so I don't know if this is, I don't remember if they did or not, but is his first, they talked to Teo. This is his first time winning the division since being in the major leagues. Edgardo Henriquez gets to come up on Tuesday and, celebrate today. I mean, even Ben Casparis gets to celebrate today when he probably was still with the team, but, he wasn't on the roster, and then you have all the injured guys that are there. So it was, I know they've won it 11 of the last 12 years. I know it hasn't led to as many World Series as we want, but I think the way they did it this year, the way that, the Padres were, a lot of people, once the Dodgers lost that first game of the series, were probably thinking we're going to have to fight for it this weekend or we're going to need some help from the Diamondbacks. And the Dodgers got it done. They won the next 2 games of that series. And, it's just a testament to how this team can win. We talked about how this team can win. This is how the team can win. You get good enough starting pitching, you get the bullpen who we think is a strength, and then you get the offense putting up runs, and that's the way you can win.
Yeah, it's funny that Edgardo Henriquez got his first champagne party before his first airplane flight as a big leaguer. So congratulations to him. Yeah, you know what? And speaking of Henriquez, 2 days ago, I admitted that I was wrong about Edgardo Henriquez. And so now I'm going to admit that I was right because I have been saying all along, Dodgers are going to win the division. I'm not worried about the division. Dodgers are going to win the division. And every time the Padres get close, what about now? Yes, the Dodgers are going to win the division. After the Padres won 2 times, what about now? Yes, the Dodgers are going to win the division. Because, like I said so many times, it's always better to be the team that's 3 games ahead or 7 games ahead or whatever than to be the team that's chasing because you don't have to do as much. Like this was, and it was great. The way the Dodgers just took care of business. They could have crumbled after that triple play. That Tuesday was a game they should have won. You look at the plays that Jurickson Profar, the worst outfielder in the history of the world, made against them on Tuesday. And the triple play to end the game, all those things, the Dodgers should have won that game, and that could have been a backbreaker. But instead, it was just hey, look at that stupid thing that happened. Let's go win the next 2. And they did. And the Dodgers are a very, very good baseball team. With all their challenges, all of the issues that they have, this is why, I don't know if they're going to win the World Series this year, but I absolutely think it's possible because they're a very good team and they can win a game against you look at this game, postseason quality opponent. One of the best teams in baseball is who they played tonight. Walker Buehler, one of their worst starting pitchers who will be in their rotation. And they won 7-2 because they're a very good baseball team. Doesn't mean they'll win every game that Buehler starts 7-2, but this is why I believe in being optimistic and having hope because, yes, when you have this offense, when you have Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts, who, despite podcasting with Fernando Tatis, somehow drove in 2 runs and had 3 hits, even though he had the nerve to be friends with an opponent, just when you've got this team, you can win any game that you play. Doesn't mean you'll win every game. You definitely won't win every game, but you can win any game. And in the postseason, you just got to win more than you lose 3 times in a row. Go get them.
Yeah, don't get me started on Mookie Betts. The amount of comments I saw about that, you know what? If you don't like it, I understand, but I do want to look at the numbers. I kept track last year. I need to keep track. I'll say this: the Days Mookie Betts podcast, his numbers are really, really good. So I don't know. I don't think it's a correlation, but it's just a matter of that. It doesn't matter.
If Mookie had gone 4 for 4 yesterday, nobody would have said a word about him podcasting today. It was 2 games in a row. People had their PTSD from last year's postseason, so they were already freaking out about Mookie. And then he has the nerve to not be sulking and instead just living his life. The way I have a friend who's a surgeon, and he was at the Dodger game on Wednesday night, and he was asking me tonight what I thought about Mookie doing the podcast with Tatis, and I said, if people took other professions as seriously as sports fans take sports, then there would be people saying, why did you have the nerve to go to a Dodger game last night when you had to do surgery today? You need to take this surgery seriously. And his response would have been, I'm good at my job. I know what I'm doing. I can do my job well and have a personal life. And the same exact answer is true for Mookie. Mookie is very good at his job. He wouldn't have been taking batting practice this morning instead of podcasting with Tatis. This is all part of what he does. And he's one of the best players in baseball. And I love that he chose tonight to have a huge game, get a huge hit in the clutch situation to put the game away. Everything about that was perfect for me.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it wasn't all beautiful things for the Dodgers on this night. We get into a couple of things happened before the game and in game. And I see a question here about the backdoor triple count for Ohtani. So we'll talk about that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com, Explore those U.S. cities you've always wanted to secretly learn more about, or those other baseball cities. If the Dodgers continue to play on in October, you for sure, if you're not in LA already, you can start looking at hotels, resorts, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, and different things in Los Angeles for next weekend, as the Dodgers will start the NLDS on October 5th, I believe. So make sure to go check that out. And go to Booking.com to do it, because Booking.com got a wide variety of choice across the U.S. You can go to all your favorite baseball cities, if that's L.A., or you can go incognito if you're going to a rival city. Maybe not incognito. Dodger fans really show out at other stadiums, so you don't have to hide every there. You can just go check it out. But no matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city, because they can deliver exactly the right U.S. stay for you. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. I am a big fan of Prize Picks. I think I've accumulated a decent amount of winnings over there. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 players or all the way up to 6 players. And if they hit, you get some money. So make sure to go check out Prize Picks. It's available in more than in 30 U.S. states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. It's the best way to get action in those states. So go check it out. And remember, right now in September, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week. That's right. All you have to do is throw for 1 yard, and that's 1 free square. If you add 1 more and they both hit, boom, you got a win right there. So make sure to go check that out right now. Download the Prize Picks app, and if you use the code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and for being an everydayer. If you are not an everydayer, we hope you are one. We got a lot of people here on tonight, Thursday evening. So if you are not an everydayer, if you're your first time, make sure to come back and check us out. We're here for you every Monday through Friday, and maybe a little bit different schedule during the postseason. But either way, we're going to be here for you for all the big moments and events as the Dodgers continue to play on. So make sure to check us out. Remember, you're going to be on the podcast. Come on, Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a text message service, or you get text from us, bringing you the biggest, all the news, updates, news, rumors, thoughts, anything going on with the Dodgers. If you can't keep up with them during the day, we got you covered. And if you were a Locked On Dodgers insider, there was a few updates before the game on Thursday, which we'll get into. But obviously the big thing that happened during the game was Freddie Freeman hurt himself running to first base, trying to avoid a tag. Looked like he rolled his ankle. We saw he wasn't on the field for the post-game celebration, but he was in the clubhouse, and we saw him with crutches and what looked like a walking boot. The reports are that the x-rays were negative, which means he doesn't have anything broken. Didn't look like any structure or ligament damage, they said. And, you take this with a grain of salt, as always, when the Dodgers give updates. But Andrew Friedman made it seem like if the Dodgers had lost today and that they needed Freddie Freeman this weekend, he maybe could have played. He's obviously not going to play this weekend now. And he has about 8-9 days to get ready for the NLDS.
Yeah, 9 days before the next game. So 8 full days off. He said he's not even traveling to Colorado. He's going to stay home and get treatment. He said he's never sprained an ankle before, which is crazy for a guy that big. I know we only have our own experiences. I sprain an ankle, 16 times a week, but Freddie's in a little better shape than me, from rumor has it. But yeah, so he doesn't know exactly what to expect, but watching the replay as somebody who sprained a lot of ankles, it was painful, but it didn't worry me. I was like, oh, like when I saw the replay, my first thought was relief. Oh, good. It wasn't one of those where, his shin is touching the ground, like fully more than 90 degrees bent. It was a rolled ankle and painful for sure, but great that it happened. Obviously you kind of wish that Freddie would just take the out in that situation but he's a gamer. You get why he's going all out. But the fact that he doesn't even have to fly to Colorado, doesn't have to get on an airplane for 2 weeks, or well over a week and a half. So he's in, and maybe even after that, if they're playing the Padres, he may not have to fly because flying can always be rough on those things. So the fact that he can just stay home, get treatment, MLB teams have access to so much good equipment that I am as sure as I can be when a guy is right at this moment wearing a walking boot that he's going to be just fine in 9 days.
Yeah, walking boots look scary, but they're pretty much protocol these days with any, type of leg injury or ankle roll or anything like that. Like he could have jogged off the field right after, and maybe still had a walking boot after just to keep it stabilized and, the swelling and everything else. So
I actually said that. Put a walking boot on Freddie right now so he can celebrate with the team without having to worry about this. And then even though he doesn't need a walking boot, I'm sure it was an unnecessary walking boot, which was the name of my high school band that I was in.
Yeah, the way he reacted, I thought he had a bunch of rolled ankles, because that's what it seemed like. He wasn't screaming in pain, and he kind of looked down, and he wasn't overly concerned or anything like that. So I've rolled a few ankles back in the day, not anymore. I don't do anything to roll ankles these days, but back in the day. So yeah, good on that. Hopefully that is really all it is, and there's nothing that pops up over the next week. But yeah, he can go rest and recover, and he'll get to spend a weekend with the family. So that'll be good for him. So I don't know if anyone saw updated real quick. Speaking of Freddie Freeman, his son Max is walking now. Chelsea Freeman posted the video of him walking for the first time, and then walking around the bases at Dodger Stadium with Freddie after one of the recent games. So good on that end. And moving back to the Dodgers specifically, we got some news before the game. Brusdar Graterol back on the injured list with shoulder inflammation. We also got Brent Honeywell going on the injured list with the cracked fingernail. Obviously, one of those affects the team a little bit more than the other. Then Casparius got recalled, and then we had Anthony Bando return, and he got into the game, so right into the action. So that's good to see on that end. At the very least, if Graterol's out, you get Bando back, who's going to be on the postseason roster.
Yeah, Graterol's a big blow. He'll be out for at least 15 days. Robert said it's week to week. Honestly, with the issues that he's had with his shoulder this year, I'd be surprised if we see Graterol again this year. He wouldn't be eligible at all until late in the division series, and he can only come on the roster mid-series if somebody else gets hurt. So, which knowing this Dodgers team, there's a decent chance of that. But most likely, if we see him at all, it won't be before the NLCS, and probably not going to see him at all, which is definitely a bummer. But the Dodgers, if there's one area that you can afford to lose a guy, it might be the bullpen. When you've got, it probably helps Henriquez's chance of making the postseason roster. He seems like he's probably in now. And so that's exciting for him. Get baby bazooka instead of big bazooka. But yeah, that one's for sure a bummer.
Yeah. So, all in all, not too bad. Hopefully, at least with Freddie's in that case. But yeah, real quick, let's talk about.
Can we talk Rojas?
Rojas. We don't talk about Rojas. Rojas update. He has a strain in his adductor that he said he had been dealing with it. Now we know what it is for sure. He got a cortisone injection. He's going to try to play on Sunday and is going to fight through it in the postseason. He will require surgery in the offseason.
Yeah, he's been playing with it all year, and yeah, I assume if he can play, we won't really notice it very often on the field. He'll be the one in excruciating pain, not us. So
yeah, he'll definitely be feeling it. All right, our buddy Pat Dwyer is on here today, and he said thoughts on the backdoor triple count for Ohtani. Ohtani's currently first in homers, first in RBI in the National League, and third in batting average. But big boost this series. He had 6 hits, 6 for 11, and Luis Reyes went 0 for 12. So it closed the gap a little bit. If Ohtani has a hot weekend in Colorado, Reyes is going to Arizona, which is a good place to hit too. But we shall see what happens.
Yeah, Reyes is batting 312 right now. Ohtani's batting 305. If we assume 12 at bats for Ohtani this weekend, he'll probably get more plate appearances than that, but figure a walk or two, a sac fly maybe. So if we say 12 at bats, if he went 7 for 12, that would put him at 313 batting average for this year. So 7 for 12 is absolutely not out of the question for Ohtani this weekend. And honestly, 10 for 13 isn't out of the question for Ohtani either, which would put him at, 315 or something. Like, somebody asked me about this, I think before the Padres series, and I said, there's just no way. It's just not feasible. There's not enough time for Arise to come down. At that point, Ohtani was at 301 and Arise was at 319. I'm like, it's just too big a gap. That gap is down to 7 points now. It is not out of the question. Like, you might want to go to FanDuel and get that those big odds on Shohei winning the Triple Crown, because I wouldn't put it past him at this point. I'm not going to say I think it's going to happen, but it would surprise me, but not shock me.
Yeah, carefree to a certain extent weekend in Colorado. Ohtani's having a good time. Yeah, it's very much possible. I guess last real quick before we finish out. So the Dodgers, because we're not going to talk again until the end of the season, are currently 1 game up on the Phillies, right? Or
yes,
I believe so. 1 game up on the Phillies for the number 1 seed. So we'll see what happens this weekend. The Dodgers have the bye. I don't think the only time it would matter 1 or 2 is when it goes to the NLCS if they actually are playing the Phillies. So
yeah. Also determines who they play. If they end up as a 2 seed, they won't play the Padres in the first round. But you know what? I just play. They'll play to win. Obviously, they'll be resting Freddie and Rojas. They'll be playing a little shorthanded on the bench because of that. But in the end, the Dodgers are going to try to win 3 games this weekend.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you got anything else before we head out?
No. Great day. Happy times here. This has been a fun series. Even the stupid game was fun and fun to talk about in kind of a therapeutic way. So like you said, unless something crazy happens this weekend, Shohei gets to 60-60 or something, we won't talk until Sunday night, our kind of season wrap up, and looking forward to the postseason. So thanks, everybody.
Yep, that'll do it. You got to see me in Dodger Blue today, and my beard looks you can't really tell when I wear the dark colors, but you can definitely tell more today. So
yeah, you never know where the beard ends and the shirt starts usually. So
yeah. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to find us where we get podcasts, and on YouTube, you can subscribe and make it easier on yourself so you can get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live. And you can check out Locked On MLB podcast with our pal Sully, bringing his insight and humor into the MLB world, getting ready for the postseason. So go check him out. You can check out the Locked On Sports Los Angeles and Locked On Sports Today 24/7 YouTube channels, bringing you the biggest user stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can find the Locked On Dodgers postcast on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel live after most Dodger games and on our audio feed. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can go beyond the podcast, come on Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, bringing you all the updates from the Dodgers that you may not be able to get to during the day. And remember, you can send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail or send us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope to be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, touch my device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you Sunday night. Go Dodgers.